Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving deep into the world of influencer marketing. And, you might be surprised to learn that it's not all glamorous sponsorships and picture-perfect lifestyles.
Right.
We've got a stack of YouTube videos exposing some seriously shady practices happening behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Think those honest reviews are always what they seem? Think again.
It is fascinating how influencer marketing emerged as this solution for brands trying to connect with younger audiences who were spending less time watching traditional TV and radio.
Right.
But as the industry exploded, the influx of money and competition created this influencer bubble.
Okay.
This kind of unsustainable growth fueled by venture capital and just sky-high ad spending.
Okay, let's unpack that influencer bubble idea a bit.
Sorry.
What exactly does that mean, and how did we get here?
Well, in the early days, you had these niche influencers like mommy bloggers,
Right.
or tech reviewers who built genuine trust with their audiences.
Yeah.
They were seen as authentic and knowledgeable, and their recommendations felt like they were coming from a friend.
Right, I remember those days. You
Yeah.
felt like you really knew those people.
Exactly. And because of that trust, their endorsements were incredibly effective.
Yeah.
But as brands saw the potential, more and more money poured into the industry,
Of course.
and the landscape shifted dramatically. Suddenly, everyone wanted to be an influencer, and the market became saturated.
And that's when things started to get a little murky. I mean, we're talking about YouTubers demanding $500,000 for a single ad placement.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling.
It is, and those high prices created this intense pressure
Yeah.
on both brands and influencers to deliver results,
Right.
which unfortunately led some down a slippery slope of deceptive practices.
Yeah, some of the stuff we found is truly shocking.
Oh, yeah.
One of our sources, Cody J., a beauty influencer, revealed some of the pressure tactics brands use.
It's pretty alarming. Cody J shared that he was once asked to trash a competitor's product instead of focusing on the brand he was supposed to be promoting.
Seriously.
It's like a paid smear campaign disguised as an honest review.
That's messed up. And he said he even declined a $30,000 crypto sponsorship because he suspected it was a scam. You've got to admire that kind of integrity, especially when so much money is on the line.
Absolutely. And he's not alone. Another YouTuber, Richard, from the Plain Bagel channel, shared a similar experience.
Okay.
He was offered a huge sum to promote a cryptocurrency,
Wow.
but turned it down because he didn't want to mislead his audience. These guys are putting their viewers' trust above quick profits, which is commendable.
It's a reminder that not all influencers are in it just for the money, which gives me a little hope.
Yeah.
But sadly, not everyone shares their ethical standards. Cody J revealed that some brands are going to extreme lengths to deceive viewers. He said he was once sent an empty foundation bottle and told to fake the application and review.
It's a blatant attempt to manipulate the audience. And it really highlights the erosion of trust in the industry. Viewers are starting to catch on to these tactics,
Right.
which is why it's so important to be a critical consumer of online content.
I think we all need to be more skeptical of those seemingly aggressive or sudden negative reviews, especially when they come from influencers who usually gush about everything.
Right, and it's not just about faking reviews. Some brands are pressuring influencers to edit their photos to unrealistic standards, even when it's completely irrelevant to the product.
Oh, wow.
Imagine being told to edit your skin texture when you're reviewing a food product.
Yeah.
It just feeds this culture of insecurity and reinforces harmful beauty standards.
Ugh, it's so frustrating. It feels like they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes.
And unfortunately, the deception doesn't stop there. In some cases, it goes beyond misleading viewers to actually stealing content from creators.
Just kidding.
Nope. Cody shared a story about a brand stealing his content for an ad without his consent. And then they tried to blackmail him into paying to have it taken down.
It's unbelievable.
It is. This kind of exploitation is a reminder that even though the influencer marketing landscape is constantly evolving, the basic principles of copyright and intellectual property still apply.
It just goes to show that some brands are willing to cross any line to get ahead.
But it's important to remember that there are ethical ways to do influencer marketing. One of our sources, Zach Benson, a travel influencer, actually built his career by bartering social media promotion for luxury accommodations. It's a great example of how influencers can use their platforms to create win-win partnerships with brands.
That's a great approach. It's about collaboration and mutual benefit, not just squeezing every last dollar out of your audience.
Exactly. And it shows that there are influencers out there who are genuinely passionate about what they do. and who prioritize authenticity over quick cash grabs.
Which brings us to another issue that contributes to the growing distrust in influencer marketing, the disconnect between top influencers and their audiences.
Yeah.
I mean, when you see these mega influencers living these lavish lifestyles,
Right.
it's hard to relate to their endorsements. It's like they're living in a completely different world.
You're absolutely right. Think about someone like David Dobrik with his multi-million-dollar mansion and luxury cars.
Right.
When he endorses a travel booking platform, it's hard for the average viewer to connect with that.
Yeah.
It just feels out of touch.
Especially after the pandemic, a lot of people struggled financially while many influencers seemed oblivious, flaunting their privileged lifestyles. It definitely created a sense of alienation.
Yes, it highlighted the stark contrast between the curated online world and the harsh realities many were facing.
Right.
It felt tone deaf, and it contributed to the feeling that influencers were more interested in promoting themselves than connecting with their audience.
So where do we go from here? Is the influencer bubble about to burst?
That's a question a lot of people are asking. One of our sources, the How Money Works YouTube channel, actually compares the influencer bubble to the dot-com bubble of the late 90s.
Oh, that's interesting.
They argue that both were fueled by rapid growth, speculative investments, and a belief that traditional economic rules didn't apply.
So are we headed for a crash?
It's certainly a possibility. They point out that the immense wealth accumulated by top influencers is largely due to a confluence of factors that are unlikely to last. Cheap ad costs, high levels of trust, and a relatively small pool of competitors. But as the market becomes saturated, ad costs rise and trust erodes, the bubble could very well burst.
Yikes. I guess we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But one thing's for sure, things need to change. We need more transparency, more authenticity, and more genuine connection between influencers and their audiences.
Absolutely. It's time for the industry to prioritize ethical practices and focus on building genuine trust with viewers.
Right.
Because ultimately, that's what will determine the long-term success of influencer marketing.
Well said. Stay tuned, because in the next part of our deep dive, we'll be taking a closer look at some of the specific controversies surrounding influencer endorsements, including Justin's critique of Mr. Beast's Logan Paul and KSI and Dan TDM's concerns about selling out.
It's going to be good.
We'll also delve into the ethics of marketing to children, explore the potential for greater regulation, and examine the historical parallels to the dot-com bubble.
Looking forward to it.
It's going to be a fascinating and thought-provoking discussion, so make sure you don't miss it.
Definitely. Welcome back. Last time we talked about how this rapid growth in influencer marketing created what we're calling the influencer bubble, and how that pressure to maintain that growth has led to some questionable practices. Now let's zoom in on some specific controversies and see how they fit into this bigger picture.
Yeah, you're right. Things get even more interesting when we look at individual influencers and the backlash they faced. One of the biggest controversies lately has been around the promotion of unhealthy food to young audiences.
Right.
YouTuber Justin called out some big names, Mr. Beast, KSI, and Logan Paul, for pushing these products.
Justin's critique brings up a really important point about the responsibility influencers have, especially those with massive young fan bases. It's one thing to endorse a product you genuinely believe in,
Right.
but it's another to push something that could potentially be harmful to your viewers' health, all for a paycheck.
Yeah, he specifically called out KSI for partnering with McDonald's. His argument was that a giant corporation like McDonald's doesn't need influencer marketing to sell burgers. It felt more like KSI was benefiting from the deal, not his audience.
I see his point. It raises questions about the true effectiveness of these mega influencer endorsements. Are they really driving sales, or are they just about brand awareness, which mainly benefits the influencer and the brand, not necessarily the consumer?
It's also pretty hypocritical when influencers who preach about fitness and healthy living suddenly start promoting fast food loaded with calories, fat, and sodium.
Right. That inconsistency definitely undermines their credibility. It highlights the importance of being a discerning viewer and not just blindly trusting what influencers tell you, especially when it comes to your health.
And then there's a Lunchly controversy. Mr. Beast, KSI, and Logan Paul launched this snack product marketed as a healthier alternative to Lunchables. But now they're facing lawsuits claiming that it's actually not that much healthier and still contains high levels of sodium.
These lawsuits bring to light the legal risks influencers face when making potentially misleading claims about the products they endorse. It gets tricky when you're blurring the line between entertainment and advertising.
Absolutely. And the whole thing backfired spectacularly when Logan Paul was seen promoting Lunchly in the hospital right after the birth of his child. Talk about tone deaf.
That was a major PR disaster, Promoting a supposedly healthy snack in a healthcare setting while many people struggle with health issues and childhood obesity is just insensitive. It demonstrates a lack of awareness and consideration for the potential impact of his actions.
It also feeds into this bigger conversation about the ethics of marketing to children. It's not just about individual influencers, it's about the industry as a whole. Remember Ryan's World? That YouTube channel with the little kid reviewing toys? They faced a ton of criticism for their endless stream of fast food sponsorships.
The Ryan's World example really highlights the need for stricter regulations and oversight, especially when it comes to marketing, to vulnerable audiences like children. They're easily influenced, and it's up to parents, educators, and policymakers to protect them from exploitative practices.
So we've got individual influencers making questionable choices, brands pushing ethical boundaries, and this overall sense that the influencer marketing industry is on shaky ground. It's a lot to unpack.
It is. And as we try to make sense of this complex landscape, it's helpful to step back and look at how the very definition of an influencer has evolved. The YouTube channel, Pulse Advertising, has a great breakdown of the different types of influencers and how brands approach influencer marketing strategies. They define an influencer as someone who has, and I love this, the power to influence. It sounds simple, but it's true.
Right.
They leverage their knowledge, position, or personality to build that bond with their followers.
They define an influencer as someone who has, and I love this, the power to influence. It sounds simple, but it's true.
Exactly. It's that bond, that relationship that makes influencer marketing so powerful. And Pulse Advertising breaks down influencers into different tiers based on their reach. You've got mega influencers, your A-list celebrities, and huge internet personalities with millions of followers.
And you've got macro influencers with hundreds of thousands or even 1 million followers.
Right.
These are often people who have established themselves as experts in a specific niche.
And then you've got micro-influencers with follower counts in the thousands, and even nano-influencers who might only have a few hundred dedicated followers. These smaller influencers often have really high engagement rates, meaning their audiences are actively interacting with their content.
So when a brand is choosing an influencer to partner with, it's not just about picking the one with the most followers. They need to think about their target audience, their campaign goals, and what type of influencer will resonate most effectively with those viewers.
You've got to consider the influencer's values, their style, their audience demographics. It's about finding the right fit, not just chasing the biggest names.
It makes you wonder, with all the controversy and potential instability in the influencer marketing landscape, if these smaller influencers, the micro and nano influencers, are actually the future of the industry.
That's a really interesting question. Their smaller, more engaged audiences might actually be more valuable to brands in the long run, because it's not just about reach. It's about trust and authenticity. And that's something that those mega influencers with their lavish lifestyles and questionable endorsements seem to be struggling with.
That makes a lot of sense. So maybe the key to navigating the influencer marketing world, both for brands and for viewers, is to focus on those genuine connections, those authentic voices that resonate on a deeper level.
Exactly. But even as we consider the various types of influencers and the shifting dynamics of the industry, the fact remains we're potentially witnessing a bubble in real time. And as we learned earlier, bubbles have a tendency to burst. Remember that channel Slidebean? They did a deep dive into the dot-com bubble.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Didn't they say that the dot-com bubble was fueled by easy money, low interest rates, and this kind of irrational exuberance where everyone was throwing money at anything with a dot-com in its name?
Exactly. And they pointed out that bubbles often follow a predictable pattern: rapid growth, fueled by speculation and hype, followed by a sudden crash when reality sets in.
So are you saying that influencer marketing could go the way of the dot-com bust?
It's certainly a possibility. The channel highlighted how media hype played a role in inflating the dot-com bubble, creating this self-fulfilling prophecy where the more people talked about it, the more money poured in. And haven't we seen a similar phenomenon with influencer marketing?
It's everywhere. You can't escape it.
Right. And just like with the dot-com bubble, there were warning signs, people cautioning about irrational exuberance, but they were largely ignored until it was too late. Are we ignoring similar warnings now?
Wow, that's a sobering thought. So what can we do? If this bubble is going to burst, how can we prepare?
Well, first we need to be aware of the potential risks. Slidebean emphasized the importance of rational decision-making, critical thinking, and healthy skepticism. Don't get caught up in the hype. Don't blindly trust everything you see online.
That's good advice for life in general, I think.
It really is. And when it comes to influencer marketing, be discerning. Ask questions. Do your research support influencers and brands that align with your values?
Don't fall for the quick fixes or the empty promises. Look for genuine connections and authentic recommendations.
Exactly. And remember, even if the bubble bursts, it doesn't mean the end of influencer marketing. It might actually be a good thing. It could force the industry to recalibrate, to focus on sustainable growth and genuine value.
So maybe this potential crash is actually an opportunity for a fresh start.
Perhaps. But it's up to all of us brands, influencers, and consumers to shape the future of this evolving landscape.
Wow, what a wild ride this has been. It seems like every corner of the influencer marketing world has its own set of challenges and ethical dilemmas.
It really does make you think, doesn't it? As we've seen, the pursuit of quick profits and viral fame has in many cases overshadowed the importance of authenticity and responsibility.
It's like that classic tale of Icarus flying too close to the sun. The allure of success can be blinding, and sometimes we need a reality check to remind us of the potential consequences.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of reality checks, one of the most striking takeaways from our deep dive is this idea of the influencer bubble. The parallels to the dot-com bubble are fascinating and frankly a little unsettling.
Yeah, it's definitely a cautionary tale. Blind optimism and unsustainable growth can only lead to trouble.
And it's not just about the financial risks, it's about the erosion of trust. When viewers feel manipulated or deceived, it damages the entire industry.
It makes you wonder what happens when the bubble bursts. What will the influencer marketing landscape look like then?
That's the million-dollar question. Perhaps a market correction will force a shift towards more sustainable practices. Maybe brands will become more discerning with their partnerships, prioritizing quality over quantity.
And maybe influencers will realize that building genuine trust with their audience is more valuable than chasing fleeting trends and quick cash grabs.
That would be the ideal outcome, wouldn't it?
Mhm.
A return to authenticity, where influencers act as trusted guides, sharing their genuine experiences and recommendations.
It's a reminder that at the heart of influencer marketing is the power of human connection. It's about building relationships, fostering trust, and creating content that resonates on a personal level.
Exactly. It's about shared passions, shared values, and a genuine desire to connect with others.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with this sense of cautious optimism. There's definitely a dark side to influencer marketing, but there's also potential for positive change.
I agree. It all comes down to making conscious choices both as creators and consumers.
We need to demand transparency, authenticity, and ethical practices from the brands and influencers we support. We need to think critically about the messages we're consuming and be wary of those who prioritize profits over people.
And most importantly, we need to remember that the power ultimately lies with us. We choose who to trust, who to follow, and who to support. Our choices shape the future of this industry.
So let's use that power wisely. Let's choose to support creators who value authenticity, who engage in ethical practices, and who genuinely connect with their audiences.
Yeah.
Let's create an influencer marketing landscape that's built on trust, respect, and shared values.
That's a vision worth striving for. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the complex and ever-evolving world of influencer marketing.
And until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.